Join ForumIAS Academy, trusted by hundreds of toppers, including IAS Rank 1 Anudeep Durishetty, Shruti Sharma, and �ishita_Kishore.
Hello everyone, welcome to the series Key Concepts in Anthropology. The topic for today is anthropology and climate change. Now, what do I mean by this particular terminology? If you remember, in the last set of discussions, I was talking to you with respect to a term called cultural ecology, where we were focusing on the very idea that what are the kind of interrelations that exists between human beings and culture. And when we talk about human beings participating and practicing a particular kind of a cultural paradigm, the environmental framework comes into default. It's already there as a cultural paradigm. You will find that different people in different parts of the world have their own adaptive strategies with respect to any kind of impeding environmental disasters. For example, if you look in Assam, you will see paddy cum fish farming. That there is a field, in the field where paddy is being grown. And since paddy, one technique of growing paddy is having standing still water at all times, they have invented this very idea of growing fish within that paddy field. So what happens, the excreta that has been secreted by the fish is more or less nitrogen based, so which acts as a fodder for the plants also, for the paddy plants. So there is a symbiotic relationship and there is two kinds of outputs which a particular farmer can avail. This is just one example because the Northeast is such part of the country where rice is grown throughout the year. But if you look at other parts of the country, you will see rice is a very seasonal crop. And if we now talk about the kind of rice India is growing, we are generally said to have been exporting tons of water by exporting rice. Because we even grow rice in the areas which are naturally not designed for rice, right? That is a whole different debate. So that was one example that how to strategize and maximize production using one field. So similarly, if you go from one pocket to another pocket across the country, we'll have certain kind of adaptive strategies, right? So how does anthropology study and view climate change? And what will be the breadth of impact which will come about to the lives of people because of climate change? So there are multiple angles which anthropology as a discipline covers while studying this particular relationship. The first angle, obviously, which I was discussing with you till now, is about cultural adaptations. Okay, like I was telling you, different cultures will have different kind of adaptation techniques, resilient techniques, right? The second clause obviously will be displacement and migration. So what happens if I live in a particular area and that area is no longer the mainstay of my life? I cannot derive any kind of an economic benefit from that area so that I can live my life peacefully. There will be displacement, there will be migration. The third angle which I was talking to you about is cultural ecology. The fourth is political ecology. And the fifth paradigm is integration of tribal practices. So what I've written over here, these are the frontiers which have been discussed, researched and debated by various anthropologists across time and space to try and understand that how have the tribal communities or the indigenous communities been dealing with climate change or some kind of environmental disruptions earlier. which gives us an idea that depending upon the biome, geography, and the setup in which these people have been living, what kind of potential options can be created. Right? So the first one is about cultural adaptations. So more acceptable term would be adaptive strategies. At what kind of strategy do I adapt? If for example, my area, my agricultural area suddenly is seeing prolonged droughts or prolonged floods. So what will be the immediate response? What will be my immediate adaptive strategy? That I have to change or alter my agricultural practices. Now, what do I mean by this? So right now only I was telling you one context with respect to the western part of India, especially the Green Revolution belt, Punjab, Haryana, western UP, where we have been growing rice recklessly by pumping out water from the ground. So what happens because of that? That you are literally exporting water. A lot of calling out has been there, a lot of recognition has been given to this idea that a particular crop needs to be grown only in areas where it can be naturally grown. So if tomorrow climate change happens to inundate certain parts of agricultural land, what will be the way out? That you have to come out with adaptive strategies. One example which I can give you with respect to the adaptive strategies we have right now, we have drought resistant crops. Okay, thanks to genetic engineering. So we have these kinds of crops which make sure that you can still live your life with the same land, right? So this is one angle. The second angle is displacement and migration. And anthropologists, they try to assess that what should have been possible reasons behind the culmination of displacement and migration. So this area is basically to investigate the social, the cultural, and environmental factors which have led to displacement, right? The third idea is with respect to cultural ecology. So like I was telling you, it tries to study the interrelationship between cultures and the environments. And therefore, by studying this, we get to know about the sustainable practices practiced by the people. This is the center of the idea of cultural ecology approach. And when we understand anthropological nuances of cultural ecology, so these ideas can be applied to political ecology, not ecology, political ideology, in the form of policy initiatives. That how do you form policies with respect to certain kind of tribal belts? When you have studied them, when you know what are the causes of migration, what is the background, and therefore you can make an informed policy decision based on that. Okay, that is the interrelationship between cultural ecology and political ideology, right? And integration of all these practices means there has to be context specific decision making. Before the enactment of any kind of policy paradigms into public space, right? So this is the idea. So I've given you the multitude of angles which anthropology delves into when we talk about how climate change has impacted people. So think, if a particular coastline has been inundated, what will the tribal people over there do? Either they will change their practices and they will go into adaptation mode, or they will migrate from there and go to another place. Or if they have changed their practices, there has to be a certain symbiotic relationship between their cultural paradigms and environment which can be studied. And therefore, all of these can be used into making climate sensitive policies which benefit the tribal and the rural people who are at the receiving end of climate change. Thank you.